Welcome back to a further episode of Men's Inner Health with Mark Randall. In this conversation, I'd really like to take a deep look at loneliness, emptiness, sitting alone, being with ourselves, a place that we men, whoa, not an easy space to be in. One of the things with the emotional selves, or I call it the emotional selves, but the emotionality within ourselves is, sometimes when we're sitting at home or sitting around doing nothing, the old boredom stuff. Is it boredom or mindfulness? That's on the channel, or will be. It's incredible that, learning to, how do we be present to that emptiness? In a lot of the spiritual work, there's a concept or a metaphor. It's like learning to come home to ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Learning to come home to ourselves, we do need to traverse the varying different manifestations of our psyche. On the channel, there will be a number of different playlists. Vulnerability is one, new masculinity is another, shame is another, anger will be another, depression, sadness. But in emptiness, loneliness is really different to being alone. Sometimes we will make choices. We need alone time. That's different to loneliness. And I was listening to, this morning coming into work, I was listening to another guy, Connor Beaton, I think, a men's talk. And he was talking about how a lot of the social connectedness that men have or used to have sort of been frowned upon. One of the huge issues that impact on our mental health is social connectedness. And social connectedness is very difficult for men. In a lot of the guys I've worked with, men will have one or two close friends, but generally, I'm embellishing it. But sometimes those friendships were formulated very early, and maybe as far back as secondary school or primary school. I think as men, in our working careers, we develop a lot of acquaintances, comrades that we work with, colleagues, mates that we work with. And there's a lot of banter and a lot of connection in that work environment. But take men out of that work environment, take us away when we've got nothing to do and we're just sitting. If we're not in relationships, we're going home to ourselves. We're going home to be lonely. Now that emptiness can be a real killer. Painfully so. How much sadness sits in that emptiness? How much darkness sits in that emptiness? How emotionally painful is it? What do we do about it? Yes, there are a number of things. We can binge watch TV, or we can soothe that with, or comfort that with our functional addictions, if we are functionally addicted to alcohol, substances, etc., etc. Now, learning from a spiritual growth perspective, a deep self-reflective perspective, learning to come home to ourselves is learning to be present to all realms of our psyche. And there are parts in that psyche that we've pushed into the shadow, and one of those major ones that I believe we men have pushed into our shadow is our vulnerable side. When we're feeling empty and alone or lonely, I'm going to intermix those two, loneliness and aloneness. But loneliness, when we're caught in that, how flat does your energy get? when you're sitting in that loneliness. The old male ego, unfortunately, doesn't want to put its hands up and say, oh, look, I'm lonely, can I give you a... We're not going to admit that. But for fuck's sake, I think a lot of us, man, are really, really lonely. And, you know, yeah, well, a lot of the friendships over the course of time and the mateship, yeah, when we're out on the terps, yeah, we're best of mates, and yeah, we sort of need that Dutch courage to sort of get through all that male ego, whatever it is. It's like, yeah, can we have some dialogue around this? You know, if you know what it is, put it in the comments below and let's have some dialogue, please. I really love to get some feedback and pointing, you know, I'm happy to be pointed in the right direction if I'm going down the wrong direction around this stuff too. I want it to be a free dialogue, yeah, open dialogue, free dialogue. Let's just start conversing a lot more around this stuff, guys. Yeah, in that emptiness, yeah, how much funk and glunk is there? Yeah, how much dread is there? That horrible, oh. Now what? Now what do we do with that? How often do we get up and ring a friend or make isn't that weird, make appointments, go and see someone? You know, in the old days you used to just drop around and see them. Nowadays we're so busy, or we're so regimented, or so, you know, we've now got to make appointments. Anyway, life is much busier than it used to be. But I remember years ago, in between relationships, sitting home and sitting in the lounge room all alone, and I've got the laptop there, and oh, you know, here I am having a form of social connection, but it's bloody on Facebook, for God's sake, you know, that social media. It's like, yeah. And you know, in the end, I just sort of turn it off. No, hang on a minute. Is this real social connection? Yes, it is a form of social connection, but it's not. It's not real, authentic. So instead of putting shit on Facebook, why don't I go around and see the people that I'm actually texting, or, you know, give them a ring on the telephone and talk, have a conversation. Anyway, that's an aside. But I hope you get what I mean by this. It's like, yeah, we all want to avoid that horrible feeling that really, it's a painful discomfort. Energetically, it's got a real charge to it. And energetically, it's like it can sink, emotionally sink it, mentally and emotionally sink us. And, you know, in that deep aloneness or loneliness, you know, how depressed can we get? It's bloody horrible. Glunk. No energy, no vitality, no joy, no, you know, there's like dread. Well, in self-development, how do we learn to start to, you know, come home to who we are? That part of us that's feeling really empty and alone, lonely, alone. I'll get those mixed up, but you get what I mean. And then, guess what? The perfectionist in me says, oh, that's not right. So, yeah, maybe this is a therapy session for me too as I'm doing this sort of work. In that emptiness, the loneliness of that emptiness, that's a part of ourself. What do we do to help heal that? What do we do to not soothe that through binge watching or drinking alcohol or smoking pot or taking substances? You know, how do we learn to, if there's grief in there, how do we learn to grieve that sadness? You know, that emptiness, what's it doing to our self-esteem? How do we learn to fill that up? How do we bring self-compassion to that side of ourselves? How do we bring loving kindness to that side of ourselves? In that emptiness, what happens to your self-esteem? Oh no, I'm embellishing it, but oh God, I'm feeling unloved, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me. All that negative, the 88% negative mindset stuff starts kicking in, grinding the gears. And deeper and deeper and deeper do we fall into that energy of that empty, dark, heavy depressive feeling. And in that feeling, we've got no energy to do anything. It's horrible. It's like, oh shit, I'm back here again. How do we learn to start doing things differently with this? You know, how when we're in that deep, dark feeling of emptiness, I call it the metaphorical depressive cave, we're really right back in that cave. And you know, metaphorically, if we walked into that cave, you know, what would we see? We'd probably metaphorically see us curled up in a little ball in the fetal position, feeling unloved, unwanted, rejected. Ouch. Christ, that's going to hurt. Sometimes it may hurt that much that the hurt is killing. It's killing our insides, and hence maybe all of that adds up and guys end up taking their lives. How awful. Now, collectively as men, you know, maybe we could learn to, and it's going to take years, but rewire some of this shame we men have about all these deep emotional things that have a massive impact on our well-being and who we are, our sense of self. But yeah, when we're alone, in that loneliness, feeling really empty, living on our own, yuck, ugh. But instead of going into the negative defaulting, how do we use it as beautiful, rich, painful material to bring that's coming from the unconscious into consciousness? And how do we learn to grieve, process those emotions? There is so much sadness in that stuff. And yeah, when we're sad, if we really surrender to the sadness, we are going to cry. The other day, I got ChatGPT to, what are the physiological benefits of tears? And it's amazing, there's about 6 or 7 of them. ChatGPT it. We may not cry as much as women, but we do have these emotions, but we've just got this shame surrounding the fact that I might let tears out. Or when I'm home alone, nobody's going to see that. And if I really breathe into it and really surrender to the loneliness, yeah, it feels like it's going to kill me. It's going to kill part of my soul. It's killing part of my soul. It's killing my self-esteem. And how do I then process this? How do I learn to have a relationship to this pain? How much do I need to journal it and start to express it and get it out of my internal system and put it out on paper and journal it? And as I'm journaling it, allowing myself to surrender to the emotional pain and let the pain out, let the tears come, let the tears flow. That's healing. And the more we heal it, you know, the better it is to come home to ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Oh, there you are. That emptiness, it may take us back to other emptinesses that have happened in our lives, other rejections and all these difficult, uncomfortable emotions that may be locked away in Fort Knox. And sitting home alone, oh, nothing to do, oh, I'm bored. Oh, maybe that boredom unlocks Fort Knox and all this stuff starts pouring out. But the more it pours out and the more we practice it, the better we get. You know, that's what I encourage guys in here. Guys, when the tears come, man, I'm not going to judge it. I'm going to hold the space. Let it happen. Let it out. Be with it, because we've been with a part of ourselves. You know, yes, it's the vulnerable part. It's okay. Feel it to heal it. Let it out. And collectively, if we men all start exploring this, and you know, we can set up whether they're therapeutic, I don't care what they are. Let's set up sort of spaces that we can have these deep, meaningful conversations. If you want to go to that zone. Yeah, vary the different zones of connection. But the first and fundamental connection is not necessarily with others ASAP, but it's the connection to ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, connection to all the aspects, the different aspects of who we are and what we are and how we are. That's the gift. It's not an easy gift, it's a painful one at times, but once we start meeting it, is the emptiness emptiness? Or is it a mindfulness of just pure, beautiful nothingness? No mind. Peace of heart, peace of mind. Be gentle and enjoy.